Hi everyone, Brittany here. For those who don't know me, I'm a world champion, 7-time master sport in kettlebell sport training, and I'm going to be talking about kettlebell training today and answering the most frequently asked questions. I'm going to be answering your questions about kettlebell training or any other questions that you have for me. There's a few questions I received before this live started, so I'm going to be answering those as well. Love for you to say hi in the comments when you log on. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you have any questions about kettlebell training, drop those in the comments. I'm going to be answering those as we go. So we'll start off with a few of the most basic questions I get. But before we do that, I need to share something really exciting with you. It's this awesome tank top that I'm wearing, which is called the Kettlecorn design. So if you look closely, you can see there are kettlebells wrapped in the mane of this lovely unicorn here. So my partner and I had this designed and we're just launching these shirts. Really excited to share them with the kettlebell community. If you're interested in getting one, the link is in the description for this live and you can check it out there. Hi, Jen. Thanks for joining me from Montana. That's awesome. If you're just logging on, let me know where you're watching from. I'm answering questions about kettlebell training today. Jen, if you have any questions, drop them below. And I'm going to get started with a few basic ones. So I have a list here of some questions that I came up with, some questions that people asked me beforehand, and then what I'd really love to do is answer questions live. So let me know if you have any as we go. So the first one I want to talk about is why kettlebell training? Why should you train with kettlebells? So any form of strength training is awesome. I think any form of exercise that you enjoy is awesome. Why in particular are kettlebells so effective and such an awesome tool? Why do I love the kettlebell? Well, there's a number of reasons. One of the things about the kettlebell is you don't need a lot of space. You can train in a small square space. You don't need a lot of time. You can get a quick workout that's really effective with a kettlebell. Something else about kettlebells is that you can work your strength, your cardio, your mobility, and your balance in the same workout. So it's super effective, super efficient way to train. And you can do anything that you could do with a dumbbell or a barbell and more. So there's other exercises that lend themselves specifically to kettlebells that are not as easy to do with, say, a dumbbell or a barbell, like around the body handoffs, like swings, like leg circles. There's a number of exercises that suit or best suited to kettlebell training. So if you're looking for better functional strength, better cardio, better balance, better mobility, and you want something that's efficient and effective that you can easily do from home, or you don't have a lot of space you want to be able to work out in, kettlebells are for you. So there's more reasons, but that's my quick answer to that, why kettlebell training. Okay, next up, I'm going to talk about, really commonly asked question is, what weight kettlebell should I start with? So this question, of course, is going to kind of depend on your background. It's going to depend on whether you've done weight training before, how old are you, have you been training recently, etc. But in general, my guideline is going to be that you want to start, ladies, 5 to 15 pounds, guys, probably like 10 to 20 pounds. I really recommend staying light and getting as much benefit as you can from a light kettlebell, as this is going to help make your routine really sustainable, which is how you get consistent results in the long run. And it's going to reduce your risk of injury and burnout, set a really solid foundation on top of which you can build. So you're going to get a lot of benefit from a lightweight. Is it beneficial to go up in weight? Of course. And that's best done later down the road. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for joining me from Alabama. Love the kettlecorns you dropped there. Kelly's already got her kettlecorn shirts ordered, so they're going to be heading her way soon, later this week. Okay, so another question, very frequently asked, how often should I train with kettlebells? Again, this is going to totally depend. You're going to hear different things out there. It really depends on how often can you train that's really sustainable for you and for your lifestyle. So I believe you can get benefits from being consistent with 2 kettlebell workouts a month, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. When you start getting too far above 3 times a week, I think it becomes less sustainable depending on the length of your workout. So while this may seem like a simple question, how often should I work out? There's a lot of context around it because, again, it also depends where you're starting from, and it depends on, do you like to exercise every day? Are you more likely to exercise every day for 5 minutes than doing, 2 or 3 times a week for an hour? That's going to depend also. So it's key to find the minimal effective dose that you get progress from, because again, that's what's going to help you stay consistent in the long run. In the long run, I mean over the next 5 to 10 years versus what can you handle for 8 weeks, and then you kind of burn out because it's too much. So how often you should train, it can really range. The most important thing is that the frequency you choose has to be sustainable. Like, think of, can I be still doing this in 2 years? And if not, it's probably too much. So if anybody has questions, I would love to answer your questions on kettlebell training. Please drop them in the comments. Otherwise, I have a list of some questions that people had asked beforehand, a list that I came up with, but I'd love to answer questions live so that you get more information on what you want to know about kettlebell training or fitness in general. So drop those in the comments. And if you're joining us, let me know where you're joining from. Okay, so I got a few questions before this live that people were asking, so I'm going to answer those. The first one was, do you think in the long term snatches may be harmful to the back? This is a great question. So as with any type of physical training or strength training, there's always a risk of injury. There's always a risk that you could injure yourself. You can't really eliminate your injury risk altogether, so there's always a risk of injury. Now, if you take an exercise like the snatch, that's a very highly technical exercise, and you take the fact that a lot of people train more than they need to or do more repetitions than their body really needs, yes, I do think there is a risk that snatches could hurt your back in the long term, not in particular because the snatch itself is so dangerous, but just because it's a high-tech exercise and people tend to do more reps than they need, there is a chance that there's definitely a chance that you might tweak your back, especially if, say, your technique isn't where it needs to be. So if you like to do snatches, not to say you shouldn't do snatches, if you like to do snatches, I would really make sure that you have good technique, that with the weights you're using, you're not feeling your back when you're doing it, you're feeling it in your legs. And then just being cautious with your programming as far as, like, say you're snatching 5 days a week, think about, like, do I really need to do that 5 times a week to get benefit? Or if I do it, once per week with a moderate amount of reps, will I still get the benefit from it? With anything, I think moderation is key. When we repeat any one exercise, be it the snatch, be it a squat, be it whatever it is, and we do it too frequently, too intensely, and or with poor technique, there's a risk that your back isn't going to feel good. And generally, the lower back tends to be a place people injure because it's a sensitive area. It gets worked through everything, like it's a big workhorse in the body. So, if you're not using your legs properly, then naturally you're going to feel it more in your back. So I wouldn't say that it's particularly that it's so dangerous, but I do think you want to be cautious in terms of your volume, making sure that you have good technique if you're going to be doing a lot of snatches. Okay, I see Jen here's looking for simple kettlebell exercises that will work the entire body, getting biggest bang for the buck in minimal time. Hey, you're in the right place if you're looking for that with kettlebells, because that's exactly what kettlebells are great for. And what you're describing is exactly what my partner and I have created in the Kettlebell Solo membership. So the type of kettlebell training that I do now, what I teach inside the membership we have, the programs and classes that we offer are really simple, great bang for your buck, full body kettlebell exercises. So that includes things like deadlifts, like squats, like A-turns, U-turns, around the body handoff, thigh rainbows, shin circles, shin rainbows, figure eights. We do a number of exercises that are very simple. They don't require a lot of technique, but they're great bang for your buck. So Jen, I would recommend signing up for the 7-day kettlebell jumpstart that I offer. You can comment on any of my videos and just say jumpstart, or I'll shoot you the link after the live if you want to check it out. Okay, so let's see. Another question I got here I'm going to address. at over 40 years of age, should you try to increase the kettlebell weight over time, stay the same, or even drop? Okay, so this is again another question where the context really matters, because I would say that you could do all of these things. You kind of want to keep all those principles in mind. So as you age, you want to maintain your strength. You want to increase your strength, perhaps. You can absolutely increase your weight. You could stay the same, or you could drop your weight and you could still see benefit. It matters the way that you're training, the frequency of your training, the recovery you get, and how you're actually, like, what you're actually doing in your training. So this is something that inside the Kettlebell Solo membership, we have different programs throughout the year. And these different programs focus on different things. So at one point in the year, we might be working on our strength. So we're working on increasing our weight and decreasing reps with longer rest periods. At another point in time, we might be focusing more on our conditioning. So we have less rest periods. We're working on that conditioning with, moderate to moderate reps, but without a lot of rest. So we improve that fitness there. We might have an endurance program where we're working on pushing the reps, and being able to sustain for longer. We have programs that are more focused on consistency, where you might use the same weight or a light weight, but you're doing a very short workout every day, 5 to 10 minutes. So I think it's important to structure your training in a way that you're not always training the same thing. So I would say if you're just from age 40 to and beyond, you just constantly try to increase weight, bad idea. You keep the weight the same the whole time, bad idea. You keep dropping the weight over time, bad idea. You actually want to do a mix of those things to keep yourself progressing, but also allowing for breaks and recovery in between. So if you have any follow-up questions on that, let me know. Okay, next question. This is going to be a tough one to answer. If you were allowed only one kettlebell exercise for the rest of your life, what would it be? That is a really tough one, because, as I mentioned before, everything in moderation. So I think if I just did one kettlebell exercise all the time, it probably wouldn't be very healthy. But I guess it's just essentially asking what's my favorite one, or one that I would like to do consistently, or I think has the most bang for the buck. I think I would choose either, I'm leaning towards either an around the body handoff or a thigh rainbow. So I think it would be between one of those two. If you're just coming on, make sure to tell me where you're tuning in from. Let me know if you have any questions about kettlebell training. Okay, so I had a next question here. You have talked about the problems you experienced with overtraining and burnout. Did you manage to identify this issue yourself, or did a coach have to highlight it for you? That's a good question. So for those who don't know, I really used to train in excess. So I would say about 4 years ago, I adopted like a healthier style of training, really started reducing how much exercise I do. But before then, I would say for 5-6 years, I was really heavily overtraining when I was competing in kettlebell sport, really pushing my body too far, which led to a lot of health issues and imbalances. So I would say that I knew this was an issue myself. I could identify it was an issue, especially because I got to a place where I was just so fatigued I couldn't really function. I was having trouble dragging myself to work. Like, I was having a lot of problems that made it really obvious to me that what I was doing wasn't working. But I would say that I definitely had support in figuring out how to really untangle myself from the mental the mental and emotional things that tied me into why I was overtraining. I definitely had support. I had somebody kind of holding a mirror to me and asking me, why are you doing this? And helping me kind of dig deeper in order to get more to the root cause of why I was doing it, not just like the physical, oh, I'm doing this, why don't I just stop doing that? Well, there's psychological and emotional keys, and I would say I definitely had help with identifying some of those. And kind of a follow-up question, that when you stopped training so much, how did you decide which exercises to drop? Well, initially when I was trying to heal from overexercising, I just stopped doing much exercise at all, much like working out, because I felt I needed to take a step back from that. So I really just was mostly walking And then eventually I added in some like easy daily push-ups, and that was the only thing I was doing for a while. So I just need to take a step back from all of it and kind of cut out, like I had all these really lofty advanced goals for myself. I kind of had to take a step back from that. So it wasn't per se that I decided which particular exercises to pick out. I just stopped doing it all of it altogether, and then I started looking at different ways that I could train that were more in alignment with just with longevity and health and mobility long term, rather than trying to do party tricks, trying to push my limits, trying to compete. I realized that the competition was something that was just driving those psychological and emotional factors that made me want to over-exercise. So I decided to stop competing and stop really pushing myself. While it's healthy to have goals, I think tying your identity to it too much can be unhealthy. Hi, Adam. Yes, the kettle corn. The kettle corn is here. New shirts and tank tops. If anybody wants one, there's a link in the description. Excited to see people wearing this. Love it. It's super comfortable, super cute. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments as I go. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep moving down this list of questions I get all the time about kettlebell training, and maybe your question is in there. Another common one, how long should my kettlebell workouts be? This is going to file into that same thing of, it depends on the context. I'd say one of the things to take a look at is what's sustainable for you. The next thing to take a look at is what do you prefer? Do you prefer to do a longer workout a couple times a week, or do you prefer to work out every day for a shorter period of time? I say you base it on that, and if you want to work out every day, make your workouts short and sweet. If you want to, work out just a couple times a week, you can make it a little bit longer and fit more things in there. So it just depends on what you like. You don't have to work out every day by any means. There's times where I don't work out for a couple weeks, where I wish work out once, 1 week, twice the next week. So it's more important that you just stay consistent in the long run than that you hit a certain number of times per week or that your workout is a certain length. Let's see. What muscles or areas of the body are trained by kettlebells? So for this one, people often ask, well, what muscles is kettlebell exercise working? Well, most kettlebell exercises work your entire body. It's why kettlebell training is so functional, why it's so effective, is that if you're holding on to a kettlebell, you're automatically engaging your arm muscles, you're automatically starting to engage your core, and you're moving the kettlebell any which way. You're starting to engage everything in your body. So really, the majority of kettlebell exercises are full body, and they're going to work, your shoulders, your core, your back, your glutes, your legs, everything. And then you can use kettlebells for more targeted, specific exercises, just like you would for dumbbells or barbells. You want to do bicep curls with a kettlebell and target your biceps, you can absolutely do that. Same with glutes, same with triceps, etc. Okay, next question. Do kettlebells help with losing weight and body fat? Absolutely. Strength training is the most important thing that you can do for improving muscle mass, improving your body composition outside of your diet. Your diet is going to be your number one thing. So diet is going to be number one, but in terms of your exercise, strength training is the most important thing you could do, because what you're doing when you're strength training is you're building muscle mass, which is going to increase your metabolism at rest and make it easier for you to lose body fat. So kettlebells absolutely help. They're a great way to build strength and build muscle. What are the most important kettlebell exercises to learn? So this is going to vary depending on who you ask. I'm a little bit unconventional in that what you're going to hear from other kettlebell coaches and trainers is that there's kind of this big 5 or big 6 of cleans and swings and presses. And I would argue that there's a better way to learn kettlebells and a more foundational way. You could progress to those exercises if you enjoy doing those exercises, but you don't necessarily have to do them. All the exercises that I teach in Kettlebell Solo are the exercises I would absolutely recommend for kettlebell training, starting with a body weight exercise. It's called a pelvic tilt. Learning how to move your pelvis, really important for any other strength training exercise you're going to do with a kettlebell. Then there's going to be learning to deadlift, learning to squat, learning to do your thigh circles, your thigh rainbows, your shin circles, your shin circle figure eights, your around the body handoffs, A-turns and U-turns. Those are going to set a really solid foundation, and they're all very simple technically, so it doesn't take a lot of skill to learn them. Anyone can do them. Those are the exercises that I would recommend as the baseline for your kettlebell training. Hi, thanks for joining from Texas. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'd love to answer your questions live. I've had one live question so far, but I'd love to hear more. Otherwise, I'm just answering questions from a list that I have. Have you heard of the Russian girl Senya that does 200 snatches? Absolutely. Senya is a very talented kettlebell sport athlete. I have had the pleasure of competing against her, being up on the platform against her in a competition in Dublin in 2015. No way could I match her with the snatch at all. She's an absolute beast with kettlebells. Really, really awesome lifter. So yes, Senya, I do know Senya. Any other questions? Drop them in the comments. Okay, I'm going to move on to what type of kettlebell should I buy? This is a very commonly asked question. So there's different types of kettlebells. There's a cast iron kettlebell, which is like the smaller. I would grab them, but I got to go over there to grab them. Small, if you want me to grab them and show you, let me know. But probably some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Smaller bell. And the handles goes a little bit wider out. So the cast iron, and there's usually going to be black, versus the competition bells, like the bigger kettlebell. They're all the same size regardless of weight. They're colorfully painted. So the competition kettlebell are generally seen as, oh, they're for kettlebell sport, but I actually tend to prefer those for any type of kettlebell training because they're versatile. You can use them for anything. I love them for kettlebell solo because they've got a bigger handle with a lighter weight. For cast iron bells, sometimes the light weights are like teeny puny bells with teeny puny handles, and it's really hard to do many exercises with them, versus if you get a comp bell that's just 10 pounds or so with a big handle, you can do any exercise with it, which is really great for foundational work and for beginners. So that being said, I love competition bells. I really like, I have a lot of Kettlebell Kings bells. I've got Vulcan kettlebells I really like. I've got Pro Kettlebell, love because they're made in the USA. Kettlebells USA is another one, ironically not made in the USA, but called Kettlebells USA. And then there's another kettlebell that I like if you're not going to be using your kettlebell for sport, but just for general fitness or kettlebell solo. It's called Bionic Body. It's very inexpensive on Amazon, and they have like a 10-pound one, which again is great for beginners. What are your favorite tips for mastering the clean? I can nail it about 75% of the time. I'm assuming when you're talking about that, you're talking about like the hand insertion and not smashing your wrist. So I think the main thing for mastering the clean is like really focused technique practice, because it requires, it's a very quick movement. And so it requires being really present with it and feeling when the kettlebell is in the right spot for you to open your hand and to push that hand through the kettlebell handle. So it's a lot of timing. It's about keeping the kettlebell close to your body. The more you cast the bell out, the harder it is to have a smooth insertion into the rack position. And about learning when it's about having like a loose grip so that you can open the hands and slide through. It can be really useful to use your other hand as like a support when the bell comes up, to kind of hold the bell and for you to start to understand when to like open this hand and slide it through without dropping the kettlebell. I would say, and if you have never worked with a coach and gotten technique advice from a coach, not like on Reddit, somebody giving you a few tips, but like worked with a coach, either ideally in person or on Zoom or something where they can look at you and give you specific tips for what you are doing, I would recommend that if it's something you really want to master. That's probably the best way you're going to get to mastery, because it also is going to hold you accountable for doing the practice, for doing that focused practice in order to get to where you want to be. Any other questions, or if you're watching, drop where you're watching from below. I'm answering questions on kettlebell training. I have a list here that I'm going to answer. Unless we've got live questions, then I will answer those. I've been experiencing impingement in both shoulders. Do you have any recovery recommendation? Thank you. My first recovery recommendation for people, if they say that they're experiencing some kind of overuse injury, or like an impingement generally, some kind of like overuse, some kind of repetitive strain that's happening to your shoulders, is I would say take some rest, take a full rest. even like maybe taking some rest from your lower body, because that's going to give your body the it's going to have the energy to put towards your healing. So sometimes if we're stressing our body with other things, whether that's, lower body workouts, or whether that's just life stress, reducing stress load so that your body can heal is really, really important. So I can't emphasize enough, just like maybe taking a few weeks off. It doesn't mean you got to take forever off, but like taking some time to just fully let your body relax and heal. I've found that like has worked wonders for me with little impingements or tweaks I've had that were just lingering. The other thing is really gentle, pain-free range of motion for your shoulders. So that might be, like trying to say your shoulder's bugging you, you kind of using your other arm to like gently move it in ranges of motion that are pain-free, or maybe you can use a wall or other things. So keeping it moving, but completely pain-free, because that pain is also, every time there's a pain signal, it's sending symptoms to your nervous system that you're not safe, that there's something dangerous there, that, potentially there's injury there. So I'd say that is key as well. I think those are my kind of basic tips. Hard to know without, more details and information, of course, on injuries. Hi, Timothy. Thanks for being here. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'm answering these questions live. Otherwise, I'm going to go to my default list that I've got and talk about other most frequently asked questions about kettlebells. Okay, so another common one, do kettlebells increase muscle hypertrophy? Absolutely, kettlebells do increase muscle hypertrophy. They can. It depends more on how you're training with them and your diet as far as whether you're going to see growth in your muscles. So first of all, it takes time and consistency in order to see that muscle growth. It takes at least 8 weeks for your muscles to start developing. Some people maybe are a little bit different, and you'll see a difference earlier, but it's going to be time and consistency. It's going to be training with the right stimulus to help those muscles grow, and it's going to be eating enough protein in order to support the muscular development. But the kettlebell, like any strength training tool, can absolutely be used for muscle hypertrophy. You're welcome, Adam. You're welcome, YouTube Punk. Any other questions? Let me know. Okay, so this is a really common one that YouTube Punk brought up before. How do I stop the kettlebell from banging my wrist? So this is a really common question on the clean, on the snatch, any of those kind of exercises. Well, it comes down to technique. Some of the things I mentioned earlier, where it comes down to the timing of your hand insertion, it comes down to keeping the bell close to your body, making sure that you have your swing really dialed in before you do the clean or the snatch. The other thing is that if you really don't like banging your wrist, or you don't like the exercises that bang your wrist, you don't have to do those exercises. The things like cleans and snatches are touted as like the best exercises. Honestly, I don't really train them anymore. I do think there's utility to them, but I think people train them more than necessary. So just know that those exercises, you don't need to use those exercises to train with kettlebells. I used to think those were some of them like main exercise. I didn't know that many other exercises with kettlebells, but I would highly recommend checking out kettlebell solo classes and programs I teach, where the exercise we do don't really require much in the rack position. Occasionally we use it for squats and things like that, but if you're tired of banging your wrist, check out some of the exercises we do. You get a lot of the same benefits without all the technique that takes hours and months and years to develop. Wish I had a pro kettlebell. Pro kettlebells are awesome. Maybe you should get one. They are pretty cool. I really like the Atlas, the smaller Atlas bell that they have. Really nice for any kind of around the body stuff. If you're gonna swing the kettlebell, like, because it's a little bit smaller, it fits between the legs more easily. Really like those, and just love that they're made in the USA. I think that's awesome. I don't know of any other competition kettlebell that's made in the USA. So maybe you should get one and try them out. Okay, let's see what other questions I have here. How do I start slow enough to prevent injury? So this is definitely, again, with any kind of strength training you're doing, with any kind of exercise program you're doing, there is a risk of injury when you first start, especially because people tend to want to start too quickly. Like they're really gung-ho to get to their goal. They think they need to push themselves real hard. And then that's an increase in injury risk because number one, you're not very trained yet. And number two, you're just pushing it really far beyond your limits right from the get-go. So one of the most important things to prevent injury when starting out is being really patient and going slower than you think you need to doing less than you think you need to do, and really listening to your body. So rather than, say you're following a program and you've just started exercising a week or two ago and you're feeling really tired, but the program says you need to do another workout. Are you going to rest, or are you going to be like, I got to get this program done? I think most people would choose the latter, but I think it's a mistake. I think it's best to back off, listen to your body. If your body says it's tired, if you're really sore, best thing to do is to listen to your body, take a few extra days, and then get back to the program. Again, it's more important that you're consistent over time than that you can follow a program to a T for 4 weeks and then you either injure yourself, you burned out, you don't feel like doing it anymore. It's more important that you listen to your body and take the time you need, that you stay consistent in the long run. Do you combine other exercise with the kettlebell? I do some other exercises. I recently started, well, I guess in the past 4 months or so, not that recent. I started doing some handstand training again. I hadn't really been doing that consistently, so I'm working towards doing handstand push-ups, so that's something I do once a week. I do also enjoy doing some pull-ups and things on bars, so once a week or a couple times a month, I do some training on the bars. I do sometimes like to do other body weight exercises that I combine. So I do mix in a few other things, but primarily my workouts are kettlebell based. Okay, I just got a couple more questions left on my list. So if you have any other questions, let me know, drop in the comments. If you're just joining us, let us know where you're tuning in from. How do I prevent blisters and tears? So this is also a very common one. Again, if you're doing a lot of swinging, cleaning, or snatching when you're first starting kettlebell training, it may be common to tear your palm. The biggest reason for that is poor technique. So it's going to be just your learning technique, and the kettlebell is pulling on your hand in ways you're not used to. You may get some blisters and tears. But ideally, you don't start with swings, cleans, and snatches. So that's something that a lot of people, the swing is the first exercise you should learn. I completely disagree. It's not the first exercise you should learn. It's pretty advanced. It requires moving very quickly. And ideally, before you move quick, you move slow, you move with control, you get in tune with your body. So ideally, you're not really doing any exercises that would tear your palm when you're first starting with kettlebells. Again, the kettlebell solo exercises I teach, really simple, really basic. You're not going to tear your palms, but you're going to build up some strength in your hands because you are holding onto the kettlebell handle. So you will build up some resistance to tearing, so that if you want to move on to doing swings, cleans, and snatches, your hands are more prepared for it. And then it's about really setting a solid foundation of good technique. Hi from London. Thanks for joining. I answered your questions a little bit ago, so you may have to watch the recap afterwards. Thanks for joining. Even though I've been doing kettlebells for a few years, I still feel like a newbie. It's helped me to use a tall mirror. Yeah, a mirror can be a really, really useful tool in terms of training. I would also highly recommend, if you're working on your technique, to videotape yourself. Usually from side view is best, and to just take a look at the timing of what's happening. Because a mirror is great, but sometimes you miss certain things because you're also focusing on doing the lift, and it could kind of distract you when you're watching and doing. You're doing two things now instead of one. So if you're videotaping, you can just focus on your lifting, and then you can go back and watch. Like I can tell you, I've looked at video of myself so many times, like analyzing my technique and trying to adjust things. So video, really, really helpful. How can you protect your lower back from injury when doing swings or snatches? Great question. The first thing to preventing your lower back from injury when doing swings or snatches is not starting with swings or snatches. It's building strength and awareness of your lower back by doing other exercises to set your foundation. One of the most important ones is a pelvic tilt. Learning to tilt your pelvis without moving any other part of your body, without arching your back, just your pelvis movement is really going to help you in better understanding how to engage your core, how to prevent yourself from really like overtaxing the lower back muscles, and where to place your pelvis in different positions, or like where to place your pelvis for different exercises. So that's really important, building a really solid foundation with deadlifts and squats, so building up your strength. So do all those things first, get better mind-muscle connection with your lower back. Then it's about form. That's going to be really key, and I would highly recommend working with a coach in person if you can, or one-on-one online, and to get advice from them versus say like on Reddit or something like that. Get advice from a qualified coach, and if you're experiencing a lot of back pain, maybe don't do those exercises. Some people, swings or snatches might not be the best exercise, especially if you have pre-existing back issues or back pain. It may not be the best exercise for you. It depends on the context. So, and know that you don't have to do swings or snatches to get benefits from kettlebell training. I'm 10 in Florida. I do workout, strength and conditioning, comfortable with 2 pounds and 5 pounds. I'm a sprint distance triathlete. Could I start with kettlebell workouts? Absolutely. Anybody could start with kettlebell workouts. Ideally you get maybe like a 5-pound kettlebell, a real light kettlebell, and start doing the moves. And I think it absolutely will benefit you for your triathlons and building up your strength and conditioning. Thoughts on the Turkish getup? That's actually a great question, because I was just, I'm preparing a social media post on the Turkish getup, and how the Turkish getup is kind of put out there as this like amazing exercise, it's gonna fix your shoulders, it's the best exercise for your whole body. Honestly, I don't love the Turkish getup. I've never been a huge fan. I've never trained it. I've only just done it as sort of a party trick. Oh, let's see if I can do this weight. Let's see if I can do this weight. But I've never put it in a training program for myself. I've occasionally, I used to do it with clients. It's just such a high barrier, because there's so many steps to teaching somebody that they really have to be interested in learning this very, step-by-step long exercise. Personally, I never do it anymore. I used to be able to do it with like a 40 kilogram kettlebell, like almost a 90-pound kettlebell. But honestly, I don't think it's at all the best bang for your buck, especially if you don't have a lot of time. I think there's other exercises that can give you many and more benefits than the Turkish getup. So I'm not a huge fan. I don't think it's like a bad exercise. I think if you enjoy it, like, awesome, train it. I would never tell you that it's you shouldn't train that exercise, it's horrible. Just know that you don't have to do it if you don't like it. If you don't like it, you don't need to do the getup. If you love it, do the getup. Have fun with it. It has benefits. I don't think it's a miracle cure, because no one thing is. Yes, absolutely. Get strong at deadlifts before doing snatches. Yeah, really key, because with a snatch is essentially a very fast hip hinge. So a deadlift is a hip hinge, but you're going fairly slow. A snatch is like a rapid hip hinge. So it's like, would you sprint if you had never even jogged? Like, ideally, you want to build up your body, like build up the intensity before you do something really intense. A snatch is a really intense exercise. A deadlift is a way toned down version that just works on building strength in the same muscle groups, your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back, your core. So absolutely go slow before you go fast. I think that can't be stressed enough. There's good things about doing dynamic, intense exercises, but they shouldn't be done all the time. If you're experiencing any pain while doing them, I would scale back, do other things, or you shouldn't be experiencing any pain while doing them. So if you are, I would cut it out for now and either work on your technique or go back and solidify your strength in your core and your lower back, your glutes, solidify your deadlift. If anybody else new is on here and hasn't said hi yet, say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let me know if you have any other questions here. Love these questions, they're awesome. While I wait for your questions, what is the best kettlebell program to follow? Well, you know what I'm going to say, because I've mentioned it several times already, and I am a kettlebell coach, so I'm going to recommend Kettlebell Solo. It's the best style of kettlebell training that I found, I've done kettlebell sport, I've done hard style, I've done some CrossFit workouts. I've done a number of things. I've done juggling, I've done all kinds of stuff with kettlebells. And while I think all those styles have merit, all of them are great, kettlebell solo is what I found to be the least technical, the most foundational and functional, and the most sustainable. And it's way less intimidating than the other style of kettlebells you're going to see out there. It's great for beginners, but it's also great for advanced athletes because we train different stances in a way. Most kettlebell training happens in one stance. Your feet are like this, about hip width apart. It's ideal to train different stances and positions because real life doesn't just happen in this position. So that's one of the reasons. There's also a lot of timing, coordination, isometric and slow tempo work that I think many people are missing in other styles of kettlebell training. So kettlebell solo, if you want to learn more about it, just comment like Jumpstart on any of my YouTube videos or here, and I'll send you a link to my free Jumpstart where you can check it out. Can you explain your breathing technique while kettlebelling? So if you're doing kettlebell sport, for example, you're going to be using more of an endurance-based style of breathing. It's closer to anatomical breathing, similar to what you do in yoga. You're going to be exhaling on the backswing, inhaling as the bell comes up, exhaling when the bell lands in rack for a clean, for example. Inhale, exhale as the bell goes back, inhale up, exhale as it comes in. It's more of a relaxed, efficient style of breathing versus if you're doing like, a hard style swing or a two-hand swing, you're going to be inhaling as the bell goes back and then sharp exhale as you go up because you're trying to generate speed and power and maximal contraction with each rep versus efficiency. Now, if we're talking about kettlebell solo, the breathing there is going to be much more relaxed, especially because we're often using a light to moderate weight kettlebell. It's not so important that you need to move really quickly or that you need to like brace or anything. You just kind of breathe according to the intensity level of the workout. So I don't really pay super close attention. I just make sure that I'm breathing evenly, as calmly as I can. I think one area where breathing is super important is as far as like when you're cooling down at the end of your workout, breathing, doing nasal belly breathing, breathing in and out through your nose, breathing into your belly is really important to send a signal to your nervous system to calm itself. So your breathing should match what if you're trying to kind of amp yourself up and get into your sympathetic nervous system, kind of your fight or flight. If you're going to amp yourself up to do something really intense, you're going to want to use a style of breathing, like I mentioned, like a sharp exhale that really kind of amps your body up, versus if you're doing kettlebell sport, you're trying to calm yourself so that you can endure for longer, or if you're trying to recover, cool down, or just keep your heart rate even, you want to be sort of breathing more calmly through your nose if you can, to help yourself stay more in a parasympathetic state or more of a calming state. Okay, do we have any other questions? I'll take a couple more questions before I log off here. I've exhausted my list of questions, if you can believe it. So, how do I say your name so I can tell Mom? My name is Brittany van Schravendijk. Well, you could just say Brittany Van S. That might be easier to say. You can also just look me up as KB Fit Brit. Any other questions about kettlebell training? Remember that I just launched the kettle corn tank top or t-shirt. So if you want to get one, see there's kettlebells on the main there. Check out the link in the description, or you can comment kettle corn and I will share the link with you. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna log off. Thank you guys for joining me. Let me know if you want me to do more of these frequently asked questions or Q&A lives, and I'll be sure to do more of them. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you. Thanks, Timothy. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Monday. Have a great week. Thanks, YouTube Punk. All right. Bye-bye.